So tell us about this, because there has been some criticism. Ukraine has said this on record that they believe that the language on the Russia-Ukraine war has been diluted, that Russia has not been named directly. How would you respond to that, please?
See, it's like this. As you know, the conflict started last February. We've already had one G20 meeting.
Yeah.
The G20 took a collective position out there. Now, the point is, we also all have to assess whether the purpose of a G20 gathering is to reiterate a position and sort of make that like a some kind of immutable concept from which there should be no divergence, or whether we should update that issue and bring in further developments and also capture those as part of the concerns. So, you could say, for example, there's a $100 billion commitment which was made in Paris.
Yes.
On climate change. So you could argue, well, every position therefore should only reiterate what it is, and we should not be discussing anything else. But we don't do that. We keep evolving the climate action position as we go along. So in the year that has passed, the fact is that the Black Sea grain corridor has become a source of concern. It's non-functioning. The attacks on the infrastructure are a source of concern. The fact that there is a discussion going on in groups of countries in the world is also a development which needs to be noted. But most of all, the central concern which needed to be captured was the impact of all of this on the rest of the world.
The global south.
Now, if you are you're trying to, let's say we have this as a position. Now you want to also carry this and this. I mean, in any kind of international negotiation, that core is not going to remain exactly what it was, then they will say, fine, then go with that and let's not get anything else in. So, my own sense is, I would say very respectfully to all parties who may have concerns of the kind that you have expressed, that look, this is a evolving issue. It cannot be that on the one hand you say, oh, by the way, the entire world is concerned about it, but I will not express that concern in a statement. That the concern will only be a very narrow concern, which will be a cut and paste from a previous year. So, if it is a truly global happening, which is why we are discussing it in the G20.
Correct.
Okay. Then the totality of that should be captured, no?
Sure. So the other big announcement that happened on the sidelines of the G20 was this corridor between India, the Middle East, going all the way to Western Europe. Many are saying this is in response to China's Belt and Road. I know you will say that it stands on its own merit, but we have not seen, at least in scale, something to match what China has been doing for the last 10 years with One Belt, One Road. So to that extent, to the scale extent at least, is this something that matches up to it?
Look, I think the moment you get into comparisons, you are going down a fundamentally wrong road. Okay? What is this about? This is about you have a very important economic center, historically, in human history, which today is once again regaining its place. It's the 5th largest economy. It's going to get bigger. You have another big historical economic center, Europe, and then you have countries between them, which again traditionally have played a very important role in ensuring commerce, not only between these two poles, if you would, but also between these countries in the middle and them. So, yesterday evening we had a dinner for the Saudi delegation, because the Crown Prince was here, and one of the Saudis actually were telling me, they said, look, we have parts of Saudi Arabia where for generations there are pathways and there are routes. Everybody knows historically these were the routes which went to and from India. He said these are places where actually people enjoyed a high standard of living. They actually had a way of living which was related to the trafficking, to the goods movement which is going there. Now, similarly with UAE, you know how deeply the maritime tradition, the dhows coming, the monsoon trade, etc. So we have now a certain favorable geopolitical situation where Saudi Arabia would like to step forward and facilitate a certain seamless logistical movement. You have UAE wishing to do the same. You have an India which is focused very much on Europe, a Europe which is very much focused on India. So what would you do if you are a smart strategist? You would put it all together. And so I would say in a way it's very much an evolution. On the one hand, a greater awareness in India and Europe about the merits of dealing with each other economically, but also greater awareness on both India and Europe's part of the importance of the region, especially the Gulf and the Arabian Peninsula here, and of the countries themselves. So this is a big deal because the question of how to create seamless economic flows, logistical flows, is one of the big issues in world history. So the return to history, you would say.
It's going back.
And that return to history predates any belt or any road which any country may have had.